This is immigration attorney Parviz Malakouti, and in this video, we're going to go over 9 life events that could change your immigration status if you are undocumented. By undocumented, I mean if you're somebody who entered the country without inspection, also known as an illegal entry, or if you're somebody who came on a visa and overstayed that visa. So this video is applicable to anybody that's a DACA recipient or a dreamer, as well as other individuals who may not have been young enough when they came here to qualify as a dreamer, but nonetheless are undocumented. So before we get into the 9 items, first of all, this list is not all inclusive. Immigration law is so complex, there's no way that in one video we could go over every single life event that could change your immigration status. But these are 9 big events, 9 common events, which have a very good chance of having some sort of effect on your immigration status. If one of these events happens for you, you need to do 2 things. First of all, you need to hop on the Googles, hop on the YouTubes, and get researching and educate yourself. And secondly, you need to contact a qualified immigration attorney to do a full consultation so that you can have a professional that applies the law to the facts of your situation. So that's it. Without any further ado, let's get into the list. The first item is your parent becomes a US citizen. So if you are undocumented and your parent becomes a US citizen and you're under the age of 18, you need to look into citizenship by descent. If your parent becomes a US citizen and you are 18 years or older, you need to look into having them file an I-130 petition for alien relative for you. That petition might take several years to yield a green card, but it's something that people like to get started on right away, and it's probably still worth it for you to have them file the petition. Let's get on to the second item. Second item is you find out that someone petitioned for you or for your parents years and years ago. Some of you already might know what I'm talking about. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm talking about INA 245I. INA is the Immigration Nationality Act, and 245I basically was a statute that said if somebody petitioned for you before April 30th, 2001, or if they petitioned for your parent before April 30th, 2001, and at the time you were under 21 years of age, then you might be able to stay in the United States and adjust status even if you had an illegal entry without having to go out of the country. Okay, so that's a mouthful. Let's go over that one more time. So 245, INA subsection 245I may apply to you if, first of all, somebody petitioned for you before April 30th, 2001, or somebody petitioned for your parent and you were under 21 years of age before April 30th, 2001. So if you find that out, you need to look up INA 245I. Let's get on to the third life event. Third life event is that you found out that one of your grandparents was a US citizen. That actually happens more often than people think. Someone doesn't really know their grandparents very well. They may have thought that they're only a national of another country, and they come to learn that the grandparent actually was a US citizen. If that's the case, you need to look into acquisition of citizenship. The rules of acquisition of citizenship get very, very nuanced, very complicated. So that's not something we can go over in this video, but if that happens, you need to look into acquisition of citizenship. Fourth life event, you're getting engaged or married to a legal permanent resident or a US citizen. If that's happening for you, first of all, congratulations, mazel tov, that's amazing. Secondly, if you are getting engaged or married to a legal permanent resident or a US citizen, you need to look into I-601A, provisional waiver, and I-601, waiver of inadmissibility, and possibly adjustment of status if you were a visa overstay. Those are the 3 things you need to look into. Let's go on to life event number 5. Life event number 5 is the flip side of life event number 4. If your spouse becomes a legal permanent resident or a citizen. If that happens, similarly, you need to look into those 3 same items: I-601A, provisional waiver, I-601, waiver of inadmissibility, and adjustment of status if you were a visa overstay, meaning that if you didn't come over without inspection to the United States. Let's move it on. Number 6, life event number 6. If you're unfortunate enough to be the victim of a crime, if you're the victim of a crime, you need to look into a U visa, which is a visa for victims of certain qualifying crimes. Not every single crime qualifies for it. There are only some that do. You need to look into a U visa if you unfortunately are a victim of a crime. Secondly, if the crime is committed by somebody in your family or somebody you live with, you need to look into VAWA. That's VAWA, that stands for Violence Against Women Act. And despite a possibly common perception, it doesn't just apply for women. Men can also qualify for relief under the Violence Against Women Act if they are a victim of domestic violence. Let's move it on. Life event number 7, if you've been forced to work somehow. If you have been in a situation where you've been forced to work, similarly, you need to look into a U visa for victims of certain qualifying crimes. And secondly, you need to look into a T visa, which is for victims of human trafficking. Now, many people, when they hear the term trafficking, they're thinking about somebody being handcuffed and maybe blindfolded and thrown into a windowless van. And certainly those people would qualify as well. But trafficking for the purposes of a T visa doesn't have to necessarily be that dramatic. It can also include people that were coerced into working, whether by threats or verbal threats, or possibly an atmosphere of manipulation. So if you think that might apply to you, you should look into a T visa. 8th life event, let's move it on. 8th life event is you were a victim of domestic violence. If you are a victim of domestic violence, you need to look into the U visa, once again, for victims of qualifying crimes, and you also need to look into the Violence Against Women Act as well, VAWA, which again applies to both men and women. 9th, the last item, if one of your close family members joins the military, joins the military, you may qualify for something called military parole in place. First of all, let's define close family member. Close family member means one of your children, one of your, or not one of your spouses, hopefully, your spouse, or third, one of your parents, okay? So if one of your children, your spouse, or your parents joins the military, or if they're a veteran of the military, you may qualify for military parole in place, which would allow you to parole into the country, which of course is a legal fiction because you're probably already here already, and then adjust status after a certain period of time. Now, it's important to note with military parole in place, there's a lot of drama going on with this right now under the Trump administration. By drama, I mean there's a belief that it's going to end soon. Some people believe it's not going to end soon. But in the private immigration bar, we seem to think that there are rumblings within the Trump administration that they are going to end military parole in place. Those are the 9 items. A couple quick things. First of all, if you are a DACA recipient, if you are a dreamer and you like discussing these issues, consider joining my Facebook group. It is a Facebook group. It's a self-help group for dreamers. It's called DACA Dreamers Moving Forward. I'm going to link to that below. Secondly, if you haven't already, make sure you like this video and subscribe to this channel. There's a lot of good videos coming up. And third, I'm going to give myself a plug here. If one of these events happens and you think you may qualify for an immigration benefit, when you need to speak to an attorney, give us a call. That's what I do. I'm a licensed immigration attorney. That's what our practice does. We help immigrants get on the path to citizenship. That's it for now. Have a great day and make sure to like and subscribe. Take care.